Welcome or welcome back to the channel. So in today's intuitive tarot reading, I want to talk to the collective about the silence. Okay, because let's face it, silence is never just silence. Not really. When someone goes quiet, there's usually something moving underneath it. Okay, sometimes it's fear, sometimes it's timing, sometimes it's confusion, and sometimes, okay, frustratingly enough, it's the exact opposite of disinterest. You have someone that you're energetically tied to that is staying silent right now, because saying the thing out loud would make it real for them. Okay, and right now they're just not ready to do that, so they choose to keep quiet. This feels like a person who actually is holding a lot more inside than they're showing. Okay, they're not empty, they're also not detached. I feel like this person is very contained, and that's a big difference, right? There's something in them that wants to speak to you. There's something in them that wants to reach out and that wants to make a move, and a bold one as well. But I know there's a disappointing but there's a pause there. There's a pause in the energy, and there's a pause in this space. And let's face it, it's a self-imposed pause, right? Because it feels like this person is putting their own feelings in a waiting room, and they're kind of telling their feelings to behave. And the reason for that, I think, is a little simpler than you think. They don't know how this will land, okay? They may be worried about saying too much too soon. They could be worried about your reaction. They could be worried if they open a door, even if just a little bit, like everything is just going to spill out. They're worried that once they show their hand, they'll lose control of the situation, okay? They're worried about the potential rejection they risk. So what do they do instead? They go quiet. They go silent. They stall. They let their silence do all the heavy lifting, okay? And listen, it's not always noble. Sometimes it's actually avoidance dressed up in a nice coat. But sometimes it can also be protection. Like, it can also be like caution. And what I'm sensing is that this person might be feeling more than they're prepared to manage right now. They might be sitting with like this kind of private tension where secretly they want connection and they want clarity and they want to be understood, but they don't trust the timing right now. Something about the timing in the energies right now is not enough for them to step forward. You know what else I pick up on? That there's a strong sense of pride here, okay? And it's not arrogance, although pride can come across that way. But I feel like pride can be a little bit softer than arrogance. Sometimes it means they're just rather disappear into silence than risk rejection or risk looking vulnerable. So they'd rather seem unreadable than admit they're affected. And honestly, that itself tells you a lot, because people who feel nothing usually don't need to hide, right? The silence itself, the silence itself, the one that you're experiencing right now, I feel suggests that they do feel something. Maybe they're trying to figure out if this is worth the risk. Maybe this person is waiting on you, and they're waiting to see if you're going to reach out first. Maybe they're hoping that whatever it is that they're feeling is going to settle down or is just going to dissipate if they give it enough time. Spoiler alert, feelings usually don't just disappear because we ignore them. In fact, when we ignore them, they get louder in more convenient ways. So, if you've been trying to read between the lines, here's what matters. This silence, it is not the same as absence, okay? And it's not the same as indifference either. And it's definitely not the end of your story with this person. I feel like the silence is information, and it's telling you that something is happening inside of them that they haven't found the words for it yet. And that can be frustrating because you're left to do all this intuitive labor. You're the one sensing the tension, you're the one noticing the pause, you're the one on the other end of the silence, and you're the one wondering like what's changed, what happened, or how did it come to this. The imbalance in the energies right now, it can start to wear you down, especially if you let it. So This is your reminder today to not romanticize the silence too much. Sometimes silence means that they are just processing. Sometimes it could mean that they are afraid. And sometimes it means that they are choosing not to choose. Okay? You don't want to build a whole emotional building around someone who refuses to open a door to it, right? At the same time, though, I do feel like the silence that you're experiencing right now is temporary, for at least some of you. Not for all, but for some, because this reading isn't going to find resonance with everyone, right? There's just a strong sense of internal conflict that I'm picking up. And it's like they're wrestling with what they want versus what they think they should do. And when people are in that kind of space, they can go very still, almost too still, like too quiet. So if this is if this is about you and like about a specific person, then the message is to watch what happens next. Okay? Watch what happens next rather than fill in the blanks with fear. Because silence can be a bridge, but it can also be a shield. And the difference is going to show up in time, and time is going to tell you a lot. So I don't suggest chasing the silence. I don't suggest panicking about it either. Don't even try to make yourself smaller to get a response out of it. That kind of energy usually pulls you away further from the truth, not closer to it. Instead, I feel like sit with the silence. Let the silence reveal itself. If they come back with honesty, with communication, or even like a small but a genuine effort, I feel like that is going to tell you something. However, if this person stays hidden, if this person stays quiet, evasive, elusive, emotionally unavailable, doesn't that tell you something too? Either way, you get information. Either way, you don't stay stuck forever. And honestly, I feel like that's the real lesson here. Not just why they are silent, okay? But what is the silence asking you to see? Okay, is the silence asking you to see your own patience, maybe your own standards, your own tolerance, your own unwillingness to keep guessing in circles? Because, sometimes a quiet person is simply quiet, right? And sometimes their silence is the loudest answer they give. Either way, you don't have to beg for clarity and you don't have to chase the silence. You only have to pay attention to what's real and pay attention to what the silence is asking you to see. And the silence might feel so emotionally charged for you because I feel like maybe you've been pouring into it too much. Okay? Maybe you are beginning to kind of feel it in your body as well before you start even explaining it in your mind. I feel like this silence and maybe even the unanswered message from them is becoming a little heavier than it should, because the space between you and them, that space is actually starting to say things neither of you has actually said out loud. Okay, because that space doesn't feel empty for so long, right? We can start pouring meaning into it, sometimes even too much. But I feel like the bigger meaning is this: don't confuse their silence with your responsibility. You are not responsible and you're not obligated to translate every pause into a message, into words, into hope. And you certainly aren't required to wait forever just because someone has feelings they haven't managed to name, right? If they are silent because they are processing, time will show movement, okay? And that movement is more than likely to come from them rather than you. But if this person is silent because they are avoiding, time will show that too. And I think either way, you will have your answer. And either way, I feel like allow yourself to notice a difference.